Hi everybody, in this video we're going to look at creating a custom brush. Okay, so there's a few different ways. One, you can paint your own brush and then turn that into a brush, or you can use a photograph or part of a photograph, which is what I'm going to do in this tutorial. So I have this mountain. It has a lot of nice texture here. So I'm going to zoom in and I'm just going to take a part of this mountain. So I'm going to get my lasso tool and I'm just kind of scoop up some spots here that I think are interesting. So I'm just circling where some of the texture is that I like, and that's what I have. Maybe I'll just add some to this, holding shift. Okay, so I have a selection, and what I'm going to do with that selection, I'm just going to come up to Edit, Define Brush Preset right here. And what that's going to do is, you can see it's taken my selection only to create a brush, and I will call this mountain and say OK. So here's the brush now. I'm just going to get to a blank document. This is a file new, and create a nice large document to try out this brush, and we can see that when I paint with it, this is the brush tool now, you can see it's here obviously, right? But it's stamping. This is what you call stamping. We don't really want that. And a lot of people think, well, this is what a custom brush can do, and they kind of stop there. But there's a lot we can do with the brush and tell it how to behave. So over here, there's a folder with a brush on it, and this is our brush settings. And I always like to say, there's like a whole Photoshop just in here. There's so many different things you can do with a brush. Now what you can see down here is what the brush looks like when we use it, right? And you can kind of see that's exactly what we're seeing. So when you change things here, it'll update what it looks like. So the first thing we're going to take a look at, and we'll get deeper into this once we get our tablets, but what we can do with a mouse so far is we can select where it says Shape Dynamics. Now that when I say select it, I mean click on the word Shape Dynamics. You can't just check it in because you won't see the options. You need to actually click the word to be able to see the options on the right. So I'm checked in and I'm clicked on it, and Shape Dynamics, you can see there's an angle jitter. And when I turn this, or when I pull it up to anywhere I want, but 100%, you can see it's randomizing the angle of the brush. So now the brush, you can see, it actually looks a lot better. It has a great edge to it, and it looks good because it's randomizing and not stamping. This is what we had before, right? So that's the angle jitter. We also have the roundness jitter, which can change the, you can see if I just click with it, it's angle jittering it, so it's rotating it, but it's also changing the roundness of it. So you can see it's squishing some every time I click. So when I paint with that, you can see it's randomizing its roundness. I'm going to undo that. I typically don't use the roundness jitter, but I do use the scattering in some cases. So scattering, if you roll up the scatter, you can see that the brush will widen. So now when I paint across, you can see how it has scattered the brush, right? I'll turn that off, and I'll come back to here. Just want to see if there's anything. The size jitter. The size jitter is, I'm just going to click with it so you can see. So you can have small and large. It's going to randomize the size with the size jitter. And you can set a minimum diameter if you want, so it's not like a little small point. But now when I paint with this, you can see how it's changing the size. So those are the main things that I want to talk about right now for brush. Actually, there's one more. Right now I have, if I turn on color dynamics, there is a foreground background jitter. So that means whatever the foreground and background color is, for me it's black and white, it's going to, if I drag this up, mix those two colors. And you can kind of see it's mixing white with black, which creates different shades of gray. If this was red and blue. Oops, so let me do blue, and then the background color I'm going to change to purple. Now, watch this. It's going to mix the foreground and background jitter. You could turn that off, and instead we could just go the hue jitter at 100%, and that is multicolored. So if the hue is, if it's at 100%, that's the full color wheel. But if I just want to change the hue slightly of the blue is the color right now, to 25% of colors that look like blue, you can see they would be right there. So kind of the greens and some turquoise. So you can move this hue. You can even move it lower, 10%. Now it's only finding 10% of colors that look like that blue. And you can kind of see it. There's no greens this time, right? So it's kind of local. So those are some of the things that you can do with a custom brush when you're working with an image. So good luck and give it a try.